terrific Tuesday, late night edition. How are we doing, everybody? Because I know one thing. It got me feeling nicey last night watching the Atlanta Falcons when nothing mattered. Came back and won that damn game. So I want to touch on that. But we are talking with this guy, Sammy McIntyre, Moving the Chains podcast. Got the sign. We are rocking. We are rolling today. Rams-Falcons, did not see that coming last night. And then I want to touch on my man slinging, Sammy Darnold. It's time to put some respect on his name. I want to dive into that today. But let's start with last night's game. Okay, so Rams-Falcons in Atlanta. It just felt right. Monday Night Football, the vibe. Atlanta's awesome. And I got a cousin that lives down there with his wife. It's awesome. It's fantastic. But last night, it just totally symbolized the Falcons. I'll touch on them in a second. But I want to touch on the Rams. That was a bad loss for the Rams last night. Now, this thing's happened. I get it. But, man, it's just you had that seed right there, and you just let it slip. And, look, I'm the biggest Matt Stafford fan. You guys know that. I've said he's Brett Favre of this generation. But last night felt like a Brett Favre kind of night. Like, he threw picks that I go, with moments of, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. That's what happened last night. And early on, I watched that game, and I was, like, kind of fixing my eyes. I go, what's going on? And I look up, and it's 21-0 Atlanta. And I go, I didn't see this coming. But then the second half happened. And the Rams started coming back. I'm like, okay, maybe the Rams kind of picked this up, and they're 24-17, and I'm like, okay. And then it didn't happen. And then Xavier Watts from Notre Dame picked off Stafford. It thought like a pick six, but his foot stepped out of bounds. And then the momentum, it just kind of started rolling Atlanta's way. And I will say this with the Rams, not all is lost. These kind of games happen late in the year. You kind of take a team for granted. You know, take your foot off the gas. Who knows? But that was a bad loss last night for the Rams. Now, not all is lost. They're still in the playoffs. They could be a dangerous team. And I mean that sincerely. Sean McVay, they showed a graphic last night. 7 division titles. Been in an NFC Championship game a couple times. Been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1. He's a coach. He's elite. I don't need to say no more. If you don't spot Sean McVay's genius, you're a dumbass. Because I see it all the time. So I'm not going to put it past him. And Matt Stafford, what he's doing at his age. I mean, I wrote down some notes today. 42 touchdowns, 8 picks. And no MVP votes. Whatever. The MVP is kind of a crock of shit. It's kind of like the Grammys. They give it to, like, the pop star, zesty, bullshit. Big whoop. Who cares? Okay? So no MVP votes for Matt Stafford. But who cares about that? I don't think he cares because he's got a Super Bowl, maybe get MVP, who knows. But I looked at this number yesterday. 0.563 strength of schedule, the highest the playoff team has had since 2004, which coincidentally the Rams were in the playoffs that year. And they played Seattle up in Seattle. This was Matt Hasselbeck and Mike Holmgren days. So, not all is lost for the Rams. They've had a tough schedule this year. They've had some tough breaks. But as long as you got Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, and that brain trust, Rams are going to be good for a long time. And their defensive line's really good. I didn't see them last night. I thought they went MIA. It was like the missing persons report. So I didn't see them at all last night. They kind of got worked. Atlanta's got pieces, and that's my frustrating part with Atlanta. It's just, I'll get to them in a second, but not all is lost with the Rams. That was a bad loss last night. I put some of this on Matt Stafford, some of it I don't. This Rams team just kind of came out flat-footed. I thought maybe they had all that rust from the Seattle game. Maybe they'll be ready to go, and clearly they didn't. And maybe they took Atlanta lightly. Maybe Raheem Morris had some trick up his sleeves. Former boss, who knows? So, moving forward with the Rams, they're about as dangerous as anybody. They could go to the Super Bowl. I really do. As long as you got Stafford, McVay, that crew, they're going to be set. So, not all is lost with the Rams, but it was some stuff that was alarming last night that got to get fixed ASAP. And that was kind of like, jaw hit the floor like, whoa, okay. We kind of, oof is the word I would use. So not all is lost with the Rams. They're going to the playoffs. They have a great season, but kind of alarming with some stuff. And on the Atlanta side of things, the Falcons crack me up. I saw a thing today. When the games don't matter, when the stakes are lowest, when there's nothing on the line, hey, man, Atlanta Falcons, woo! Dirty Birds, yeah! Yeah, baby! Georgia, they ball out. And it's so weird. Atlanta this year, this is a microcosm of it. They lost to the Jets. The Jets. They got blown up by the Dolphins at home. And they lost 30-0 to the Panthers, third game of the season. But then they go and beat the Bills at home by 2 scores. I remember that game. And they beat the Rams last night. So make that make sense. And the word I use with Atlanta is uncertain, because I don't know what I get from week to week with Atlanta. I mean, Dan Patrick talks about it. One week, Bijan Robinson looks like the best running back in football. I mean, arguably he is. And then other weeks, I'm scratching my head going, where's his carries? They're not riding him like Secretariat. What is this? You know, they made a big whoop about Zach Robinson. He's in the booth. Now he's down on the field, wants to be close to the players. And you know what? To be honest, I don't think a shit about either of those scenarios, because it hasn't worked half the time. So who gives a shit? But that was the Atlanta that I know last night. Because when they put a performance like that on the field with Darnell Mooney, with Kyle Pitts, with Bijan, with a decent offensive line, and their defense, I got to say this, and I've said this a couple times to the Falcons this year, mainly after the Minnesota game mainly. They have put an emphasis on pass rush, and it is paying dividends. I mean, they've got guys, and listen, I'm not tied into the Falcons like that, but their pass rush has been fantastic. James Pierce has been a good addition. The Walker kid from Georgia in their own state, he's been a good addition. That Woods kid last night, I believe he had 8.5 sacks. I think Aikman said, but he got hurt. It was a shame because he was balling this year. If you get that from Atlanta every week, man, it's a game changer. And Kyle Pitts got rejuvenated. I've been waiting for that Kyle Pitts to show up. Because in college, I say this all the time, I was working one night when I was at Lowe's a couple years ago, and I look up, and Kyle Pitts, I'm looking at this guy going, who is this guy? 6'6", 240, like 245, like, you know, you can't, it's a hard matchup for anybody. Put a corner on him, put a safety on him. This was Georgia talent. I mean, this is a crazy part. This was Georgia's talent 5 years ago, before NIL took over. So, and listen, he's been kind of inconsistent to me, but that kind of describes the Falcons. Like, they're an inconsistent franchise. And moving forward, what happens with them? I don't know. Matt Ryan, I heard, is going to be kind of doing like a advisory role like John Elway. We'll see how that works. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. But Atlanta they scratch my head, because I watch Atlanta in games like last night. Show me why they have the talent to do this. Now, moving forward, I mean, who do you trust in this division? I'll get to Carolina in a second, because I want to talk about Seattle, that game. But this division's weird. I never know what I'm going to get out of this NFC South. I don't know. It's always been up and down for me. Carolina's great, and they're not. Atlanta, eh. And then New Orleans had their peak with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Should have won more, but be that as it may. And then they kind of fall off a cliff. And then you got Atlanta, who's kind of like that. And I mentioned Carolina. So I don't know moving forward what happens with Atlanta. They got to figure out the quarterback position. Is Kirk Cousins your guy or Mike Penix? Time will tell. I don't know. But they got to figure out something. They got to figure out how to become more of a well-oiled machine. There's some weird stuff going on in the front office. I'm not sure. Rich McKay, what's his role? I don't know. But last night, and I've heard this I think Dan Patrick said it, they're kind of like the Chargers of the AFC, and I'm starting to feel it. Because the talent's there, they just got to put it all together. And I don't know. I just feel like they kind of hit that ceiling. They've been the NFC Championship game, been to the Super Bowl, but that's it. And obviously, we all know 28-3. I don't need to go in ad nauseum over that. But, I mean, that to me symbolized Atlanta. right? Like, they have all the pieces to play like that last night and dominate a team like that. But it's the inconsistencies, right? It's inconsistency offensively. It's in the defense, honestly, played their ass off. I feel like the defense has been a little bit more better than the offense this year, which is hard to believe in Atlanta. Now, they've both been inconsistent both ways, but I'm watching last night, I'm like, that defense getting after Stafford. Rams got a decent offensive line. So, that blew me away last night with Atlanta. So, that was my takeaway on that game. And now I want to flip over to a game because there's one guy that's my guy I root for. He's got this guy's name, and that is slinging Sammy the Man Darnold last night. Because you know what? He got me feeling nicey. That Seattle defense, 10 points, 139 total yards, 1 for 11 on third down, 2 takeaways. Whew, balled out last night. And oh, by the way, on Sammy Darnold, for all you critics and haters, I got 2 words for you. Suck it. Because you know what? He's one of 5 quarterbacks in NFL history to have consecutive 13-win seasons with different teams. You want me to tell you the list? Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer. Tom Brady, Hall of Famer. Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer. Brett Favre, Hall of Famer. And oh, by the way, slinging Sammy Darnold. Take that. For all you critics out there, yeah, I wasn't one of them. I believed in him. He needed a new start. Just like Baker, Moneymaker Mayfield, got his start in Tampa. Sammy got it up in Seattle. Fantastic. Love it. And you know what? Last 2 years, this is how great he's been. 27-6, 8,169 yards passing. That's second in the league. Passing touchdowns, 60. Tied for third. In big pass plays, 117. Bam. That just happened. He has been phenomenal. This Seattle team, it would not shock me if they beat Seattle or San Francisco next week. Because I guarantee you, Mike McDonald's going to sit in that basement and he's going to study everything Kyle Shanahan does, formation-wise, motions, shifts, you name it. He's going to figure that out. Because he's not going to allow what happened week 1 in Seattle to happen in San Francisco. He's going to be the kind of spoiler. Yeah. So I can't wait. I am about as fired up. I mean, I know we got Panthers, Buccaneers. I'm pulling for Baker, but that's going to be snooze fest. But I am excited for Seahawks, 49ers. But by the way, that should be a Sunday night football game, damn it. It should be, not Ravens Steelers. I know. Ravens Steelers got a lot of intrigue. I got it. But that to me feels like a 4:25 mid-afternoon game with just the biggest implications. It feels big. It does. So, I can't wait for that game. I am so fired up right now. Whew. I'm on a tear today. I'm in a great mood. But Sammy Darnold's making me proud. I am so happy for him. He learned from Kyle Shanahan. He's moved around, gotten to Minnesota. Now he's in Seattle. Good job, Sammy. Way to go. You're making me proud, baby. That's right. And on the Carolina side of things, look, it's been a weird year. It's kind of like Atlanta, kind of inconsistent, up and down, roller coaster ride. But I will say this with them. They had a nice draft. I like Derek Brown. Ted McMillan's been a surprise to me. I didn't think he'd be this good. I like Cuba Hubbard. I love Rico Dowdle, stolen from Dallas. Coker, they got Mitchell Evans and Tommy Tremble, and their line's okay. But they're kind of stuck with Bryce Young. And listen, I can respect the hell out of Bryce Young. Gamer, tough guy. Pulling for him, rooting for him hard. But I think Carolina's got to go find a new guy. And I kind of differ back and forth between, I like Bryce Young, but I don't love him. And I think Carolina, to me, when I look up, I go, I was blown away by Seattle. I know their defense is legit. It's got those Legion of Boom vibes. Not saying it is, but I'm saying vibes. They got waves of pass rush. They just keep those guys fresh. And then the secondary is fantastic, and their linebackers are flying around. That defense is suffocating, to say the least. They don't let you breathe. Now, I think Houston's, has got more known, bigger name guys. Obviously, Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter and Stingley and Lasser, guys from big schools. But Seattle's got those kind of guys too. Just not, U of I's fine, but you know what I'm saying. And I'm blown away by Seattle. I think they're fantastic. I think their defense is solid. But Carolina, man, listen, this has been a weird year. Even if they get in, and let's not be happy if they got in. First time since 2017. I was in college last year. It just wouldn't feel right to me. I think they're one and done. I mean, they'll keep it competitive, but I think Carolina going into the offseason, you got to decide, what do you do with Bryce? Because if you pay him like $20 million, okay, that's fine. If you pay him in the upper echelon, you're making a huge financial mistake. Your ROI is not getting back on that. So, if I'm the Panthers, I'd play everything close. Because moving forward, you got to ask yourself, well, is our guy better than Tyler Shuck? No. Is our guy better than Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix? No. Is he better than Baker? I mean, yeah, I guess, but Baker's proven it in this league. So you got some decisions to make in Carolina. I like Bryce Young, the player. On individual plays, he can make plays. But I saw Sunday him airmail balls, then I go, what the was that? So, Carolina's got some decisions to make. And I said this tonight, I think Chris Sims said over the summer, is that J.J. McCarthy and him are very similar. Is that they didn't pick up the fifth-year options for him. There's a lot of expectations. They have good coaches. Dave Canales, Kevin O'Connell, offensive coaches. Got quarterbacks, played a high level. But something hasn't been right. Now, JJ's had the injuries and the 9, whatever the alter ego shit of his, whatever. It's not working, clearly. And then Bryce just being up and down. Half to half, I don't know what I get. But, I mean, if you could ride it out for one more year, okay, run it back. I thought Bryce Young kind of had like a Jordan Love kind of year this year, where he had such a great back half to 2024, and then he kind of carried it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, and then it kind of wasn't the same, right? And I kind of feel that with Bryce. It's kind of been up and down and consistent like Jordan Love was 2024 after that really good 2023. But having said all that, I think Carolina's going to be okay in the long run. I like where their direction is. They have offensive pieces. They have decent protection for Bryce Young. I just don't know if Dave Canales is in love with him. And I think that the Panthers need to kind of go a route of kind of looking around. I'm not saying they're going to go do it, but kind of have that in the back of your mind going, we could do better. We could do better. So that's something to keep an eye on moving in the offseason. But that was embarrassing by Carolina's standards. But Carolina might make the playoffs next week. Who knows? Something's got to give in that game. I'm pulling hard for Baker. It's my guy. Tim Brooks knows as good as anybody, but something's got to give in that game. I could give a shit less for the NFC South, but I think the division's just shitty because of the way the teams have been this year. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. We've got college football Wednesday. We got the Miami-Ohio State game tomorrow night. Going to touch on my Raiders. Get close to Fernando! Woo! All right. We're so bad. And I'm going to touch on a couple more games I didn't touch on the last 2 days. So stay tuned with me. We got a lot of content. Football weekend long. Best time of year, baby. So let's rock and roll. Keep rocking and rolling with me, guys. Thanks for the support. Love you guys. Adios. Sammy Mack out.